it's hard to believe, but this is the fourth CPAC since Obamacare was signed into law in March of 2010. So let me ask you, CPAC, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Well, that's odd. President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, MSNBC, they keep telling us the law is just great. In fact, they're so happy with it, they say that they're going to campaign and make Obamacare their main issue in the 2014 elections. I say, I hope you do keep it the main issue. And to the Democrats, if you like that campaign strategy, you can keep that campaign strategy. Because President Obama can spend his last 2 years in office with a Republican House and a Republican Senate. But this panel is not about politics. It's about understanding the impact of the many disasters and unintended consequences of Obamacare. In the past few years, it had impacted our health care in so many ways. The broken promises about keeping your doctor, keeping your health insurance, lowering the cost of premiums, no tax increases on the middle class, and as Obama says, bending down the cost curve of health care. And then there are the other issues, the Obamacare waivers for political cronies, the exemptions for Congress, IPAB, the IRS, the bailouts of the insurance companies, the Medicare cuts, the doctor shortages, the medical devices tax, the prescription drug tax, hospitals closing, the $2 trillion price tag, felons serving as navigators, a tax on our religious liberties, the job losses, the shrinking paychecks, part-time hours, the unilateral delays, the executive orders, the corruption, the missed deadlines, the phony enrollment numbers, and last but not least, the website, which makes flying toasters look like cutting-edge technology. And is so dysfunctional, even the WikiLeaks hackers have trouble getting in. But aside from that, President Obama's right, it's working just great. So what do we do now is the question. How do we move forward? Does Obamacare cover treatment for baldness as Americans tear their hair out? And do we have better medical options other than getting cryogenically frozen until they come up with a cure for Obamacare? 4 years in, it's clear to most Americans that Obamacare is to fixing health care as Godzilla is to urban planning. It's been a devastating, unmitigated disaster that has hurt Americans far more than it has helped. But with our distinguished panel, we hope to finally offer some help and some answers. It's an interactive session today, so we want your questions for our panelists. If you can, send them to @CPAC News with the hashtag Frederick Panel. My last name is Frederick Panel. We'd love to have your questions. First up, the Honorable Tom Price, U.S. Representative from Georgia's 6th District. An orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Price spent more than 20 years caring for patients, which helped him formulate and introduce into Congress his Obamacare alternative. He's been a leader. His alternative focuses on patient-centered care instead of government subsidy mandates. The Honorable Ken Blackwell is a former ambassador, a prolific author, and an experienced public servant with a distinguished political career. Among his accomplishments, Ambassador Blackwell served as mayor of Cincinnati, treasurer and secretary of state for Ohio, undersecretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Commission. He is a best-selling author, a visiting professor at the Liberty University School of Law, and a national commentator. Last but not least, Alex Smith. She's the chair, the national chair of the College National Republican Committee. She's a recent magna cum laude graduate of the Catholic University of America, where she earned a degree in politics. Alex is already an accomplished conservative activist who has assisted many winning campaigns. Currently, she's attending law school at Seton Hall in New Jersey, and she's a die-hard fan of her beloved Eagles and Phillies.
Don't hold that against you.
Okay, let's get started. I'm a mom of 3 kids, and as a mom of 3 kids, I'm never short on bedtime stories. I have tons of them. For my kids, the scarier the stories, the better. But the thing about the stories that I tell my kids is that at the end, they always feel safe being at home with me. Unlike most Americans, we have Obamacare, and those very scary stories. In the end, there is no safe ending. Things just keep getting worse and worse. Congressman Price, can you start us off with some horror stories, some stories of constituents or things that you've been hearing?
Well, thanks, Amy. Thanks to CPAC. You know, they wanted to have the government control all the health care. I don't know what could go wrong, right? I mean, it's an absolute disaster. Let me touch on two specific issues. One is economic and the other is health care. I was a physician for over 25 years taking care of patients. Y'all know what the 29ers and the 49ers are? Not the San Francisco 49ers. The 29ers are the folks who've been reduced from their hours at work from 40 hours a week down to 29 hours a week so that their employer can get out from under the incredible burden of Obamacare. The 49ers are those that have decreased, the employers decreased their employees under 50, because 50 is the limit for when you get exposed to the burdens of Obamacare. Now, what does that mean in the real world? I've got a car dealership in my district, had 168 full-time employees, 40 hours a week, 6 months ago. Now it has 2.
Wow.
2 full-time employees. 166 individuals moved to part-time. That's economic destruction. So it's not just harming people's health care lives, it's harming their economic lives. Again, as a physician, when I talk to my physician colleagues back home and ask them how they're doing, they're looking for the doors. We are going to have a huge decrease in the number of physicians in this country who are able to practice because the federal government is coming in and telling them exactly what they must do, and that's not what they went to school and got their training for. They believe that patients and families and doctors ought to be making medical decisions, not Washington, D.C. And that's the way it ought to be.
Amen. Ken.